I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
I love to see my people party with me, man. Good to see you, Black Brown, Sweet Nikita, Miss Rhonda. Hey, happy birthday, Miss J. Hey, Rhea, Sweet Sharita. Party with me all night long. Say what? That's right, baby. Bring it to the front. Hey, Janine. Well, guess what? Hey.
All right, let's go. Welcome everybody. Peace, peace, peace. Come on in.
Black Brown, I get a little happy when I see you. What? Baby, when I see you, yeah.
Gonna need this vibe this morning. Unintended.
Happy when you party with me. Well, guess what? When I see you.
Hey, I had to escape.
Hey, Jay.
I wasn't ready to deal with this topic.
I get happy when you party with me.
I need to get into I need to switch my settings
I get a little happy when I see you.
and get the vibe set.
When I see you, yeah.
Calibrated anger this morning.
Listen, fellas, I put your picture on my mirror. Start to blush when somebody says your name. In my stomach there's a pain. See you walk in my direction, I go the other way. I start
No
to
worries.
stutter when I
Come on
speak.
back when you can.
Try to
Peace,
stay,
peace,
but my
peace.
knees go weak. What's happening to me?
No doubt.
Anybody can tell me what it means? I lay my head on my pillow. He got me staring out the window.
No doubt.
Wish on a star for a sign. That's the reason why. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, see you. Hey, Marlon, you sexy boy. Hey, oh no.
Definitely let folks know to come on and join us.
Hey fellas, listen. I scribble X and O's on my notebook, checking how my hair and my nails look. I feel myself up in the zone. I get nervous when you call. Say I'm not home. See your face. I hear my favorite song. Should I send an email at home? I wonder if you know, or do you have a clue? Yeah, I lay my head on my pillow. He got me staring out the window. Was on a stop for a sign. That's the reason why. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. See you.
Peace, peace.
Marlon, so
Geechee got
sexy
us.
boy.
Peace, Omega.
Oh, no. When I see you. Listen.
No doubt. I got you.
So sexy boy.
Nah, just air drums.
Oh no. When I see you. Hey Fox, hold me down, listen. Well, guess what? When I see you, yeah, yeah. Hey, sweet Sunita, hey, get happy when you party with me. Hey, Janine, when I see you, yeah, I get a little happy. Hey, Tony, I get a little happy when you party with me. Hey, Tim, when I see you,
The only way to do it.
I get a little happy. Hey, Marlon, I get a little happy when you party with me. Hey, Jay, when I say, boy, I get a little happy. What? Happy when you party with me. Hey, hey.
I would love that. The Mama's Biscuits vinyl. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, everybody, come on in. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform however you can. If at all possible, sign up for the Patreon, even just for free, just as a backup, just in case YouTube decides to do whatever. And yeah, but come on in. Welcome, everybody. And let me just bring Sudip up. We can get started at least. And we'll remind folks that we are this is our open and ongoing public meeting and series around our Donut King project. The link to the full playlist is in the show description. Sudip's work is linked in the show description, including where you can get his new piece about this story that we're talking about today. We'll come back to that. This is an ongoing project about the wild gaps, the cavernous gaps between what is the reality creating these contexts and the narratives around particularly Asian and Black economics and social realities. And that's what our project has been looking to deal with. When this case reemerged, we got actually several requests to address this story directly, as it does relate to our project, unfortunately. So before we get to it, Sudip, let me greet you again. Good morning. Welcome back. Good to see you. I hope all is relatively well. Welcome.
Good morning, Jared. Yeah, everything's fine. You know, just doing work, doing my best, and then I'm just here trying to have a good conversation about something that's pretty awful. So
yeah, it's really bad. So I figure we should I'm not entirely sure how we should do it, but I figure we should offer up some sort of recap of what happened. And one way I actually thought of doing it was to play some of a fascinating interview with one of the former prosecutors involved with the case, who was given an interview recently about, it's a little bit long, but giving an interview about what was not said or what was not I'm sorry, I'm trying to copy the what was not allowed into trial, particularly about Child's past. But the very short of it all is that just in case anybody is not somehow aware, I'll just pull this story up. My goodness, I know people complain. All right, here we go. My bad. Let me get this out of here, move it over here, do it this way. But I'll at least start here with the story that came out just a few days ago. I don't know why I can't. South Carolina jury finds store owner not guilty of murder in killing a Black teen. Chikei Rick Chow, a convenience store owner accused in 2023 of fatal shooting of Black 14-year-old. I don't know why they didn't put his name right there. Cyrus Carmack-Belton was found not guilty of murder in the shooting of Cyrus in 2023. The jury returned the verdict for Chikei Rick Chow, 61, who is Asian, shot Cyrus Carmack-Belton in the back after chasing him from his convenience store in Columbia. This is Columbia, South Carolina, but maintained he acted to defend his son. The killing sent waves of anguish and grief through the African-American community in Richland County, where nearly half of the population is Black. A couple things that I did highlight from this story that, my bad, I'm gonna have to pull this up from my other browser here, but just from that very story that I'm reading from now, and I could put the link in the show description. Prosecutors acknowledged Carmack-Belton had a semi-automatic pistol, but they say it fell on the ground during the chase and he never threatened anyone with it. Prosecutor said Chow chased the teen more than 130 yards from the store. During closing arguments, Byron E. Gibson, the prosecutor, placed the bottle of water before the jurors. Gibson said that Chow, at the end of the day, believed that a human is not more than that. Nobody, and then I thought an important quote from Gibson is that, quote, nobody testified in terms of nobody testified that happened that doesn't have the last name Chow, in terms of the claim that Carmack-Belton pointed a gun at them after being chased 130 yards. The only people to claim that he pointed a gun at them are both named Chow, was the point. But what was not disputed was that I was about to say it was not disputed that Cyrus had stolen anything, but in fact that actually is not true. And I only learned that when I watched the full defense closing arguments. But what is not disputed is that Cyrus ran, was 130 yards from the store, and was shot in the back. And that ultimately, it's not even disputed that ultimately what precipitated this was the thought that he had stolen a bottle of water. Now, what I have seen disputed, and again, we can play some of it. I don't know how we want to do all of this, but I did watch, and I thought it was, and I did put the link in the show description already to the black defense attorney defending Chow, which was wild. I've also seen. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I just want to. I just want to say I listened to the whole thing just now. So if you want to talk about that too, I'm for that.
I would like to talk about that. Yeah. I just want to point out that he claims that the Chow's claim that Cyrus was in fact throwing items out as he was running. Now, he also does not explain or say during those closing arguments that they ever found anything. It's not like they said they found store items strewn about the path of the. He didn't say that, but he does claim. And then they claim, of course, that even after running, and this is where the other prosecutor who was initially on the case in her interview says the law gets kind of tricky, because what Chow's attorneys did was reset. Because initially you think if once you run and you're running, they have no cause to claim self-defense and shoot you. But according to the former prosecutor who thought the state had a good case against Chow, she did acknowledge that the defense did a good job of resetting and narrowing the scope to only at the moment where the Chows caught up to Cyrus, which legally speaking, in their argument, reestablishes the cause for self-defense by saying that Cyrus then did pick up a gun that whether it dropped and he was picking it up or not, pointed it at the son, that Rick Chow then said, stop, put it down. And then according to the Chow's defense attorney, once Cyrus turns to run, that breaks, apparently legally, his protection under what should have been, a lack of a cause for self-defense on Chow's part, and Chow is legally allowed to shoot him. Now, I just want to be clear before we go any further. This is one of the reasons why I started, usually when we're doing our show, I don't even start with the go-go intro, but I had to this morning because I honestly need to get, I'm trying to keep myself, because I'm very much here with it. Like I'm very much here with it. I don't want anybody, I changed my background, put on my light blue shirt. I'm smiling, but I've gone overboard. And I don't think any of my actual thoughts on this matter are appropriate for public consumption. So I'll just say that as I find all of the claims nonsensical. and I find that it shouldn't matter, even if he was stealing all of the water. But I'm just going to say, and then I also have to say, I'm just one more thing about my own bias. I do have to say that looking at the pictures of Cyrus as a kid, you know, looking at some of the pictures of him, I can't help it. I thought of myself. And, you know, and when I was his age, I was more guilty of what he was claimed to have been doing. I was stealing all the stuff. I was doing all that stuff. I was, for a brief moment at least, what some shop owners might have considered some kind of a menace. I wasn't gun-toting or robbing anybody, but I'm not like at gunpoint, but not cash registers. But I was stealing food. I was stealing drinks. I was stealing cigarettes. I was stealing rolling paper. I was stealing whatever I could get my hands on, and at no point do I think I would have deserved to be shot down in the street. So it doesn't matter. And I also am not moved by all of the discussion of Cyrus brandishing a gun on social media, which of course the Chows wouldn't have been able to know about, and would have been irrelevant. I also don't care that he had a gun. I also don't care that I don't care about anything else that they might want to say. The point is, if you don't chase him, none of this happens. Last point, and then I'll take a break. It's very important that I think that what is not included, as that former prosecutor pointed out in her interview, what is not included in a lot of the discussion, because it was not allowed legally to be brought in, even though the defense attorney can hold up the picture of Cyrus with his gun on social media. What was not allowed to be legally brought in is that at least twice before, Chow had shot at other people, including shot at a car that was driving away, allegedly with stolen items in it. But I don't care. They were alleged to have stolen a case of beer. So, do you know how many cases of beer I've stolen? No, and I'm sorry, cases would be light. Kegs. Back in the day, once upon a time, for a brief moment, kegs of beer I've stolen. And if I'm driving away with all of your liquor, I don't deserve to have my car shot up or to have you chase me down and shoot me in the street. I do have one more story to say. I'm sorry, I did have one more thing to say, because it relates to this issue of boycotts that we're going to get into. Not even 10 years ago, in my 40s, all of the local liquor stores, all of the local corner stores around here where I live, out here in these tree-lined streets, they're all Asian-owned from one variation of Asia. You know, all of them. I don't think there's an exception to the rule. I go into the liquor store. I'm supposed to get a lot of drinks for a party we're having. All I can say, because I look how I look today, this is more or less how I was looking then. I had on what used to be referred to as, I admit, the blackest thing about me in that moment was the stereotypical coat I was wearing, winter coat I was wearing, which is often associated at the time with thugs in DC. I had the knockoff version of that coat. It was a cold night. I'm going out. I'm getting, I just left the house. We're partying. I'm literally listening in my headphones to Dave Matthews Band. This is how goofy in my mind the evening was. I go in there. There's a group of college-age white boys being loud, rowdy, making all kinds of noise. I'm quietly going around picking up what ended up being, it wasn't a North Face. It was a knockoff version of the North Face, Yipper. But a bubble puff coat, with all of that, exactly. But I'm walking around and I'm getting what ultimately would have been what ultimately came to over, I think, $300 worth of liquor and beer. I'm getting all this stuff. But as I'm walking around, I'm hearing all the noise, and I notice that similar to what we see in the video of Cyrus, I'm being followed just like that woman was standing there. And at first I'm like, wait a minute. I keep walking around just to verify, and then I turn around, and at one point, but it wasn't a woman, it was a dude. It was a young man, a younger man. I turn off the music, and I'm like, what's up? Like, what is going on? I'm like, they're all over there being rowdy, making all this noise. I'm quietly, like, I have like a carton. I got I'm like, I have all this. So I'm like, what's going on? And he says something. I can't remember exactly what, but it was something slick, like, but something letting me know I am watching you. We have a couple words. I end up taking all the stuff up to the counter, and I'm like, I can't, I'm saying something like, like, I can't believe, I was like, I was like, they're making all this noise. I said, you're really following me? I was like, what's really happening here? And I give the guy, the older man behind the counter says, I want to see your ID. And he's doing it out of spite. I'm obviously over 20. I said, fine, here's my ID. And I can't remember exactly what they start looking at the ID and laughing at with each other. And then the guy says something to me, and he says my first name. I think he said he said Jared, and I said, and I was getting upset, and I said, actually, you should be calling me Mr. Ball. And then I said, in fact, you should call me Dr. Ball. And honestly, I can't retell the story accurately without sounding like a stereotypical racist. But the way the way they laughed at me together, I mean, honestly, outside of this, looking back, it is funny. It was upsetting in the moment, but looking back, honestly, if you could step back, it was because they started laughing at me, and they're like, oh, Dr. Ball. Oh, Dr. Ball. And they start, and I can't remember all the details, but it ended up with a little more hostility to that. I end up making the purchase. I take the stuff. I go out. I get all the way to the car, and then I start cussing. I said, damn that. And I went back, and they were closing. And I demanded that they open up and give me my money back. And I gave them all, and I made them take the whole thing back. I was like, here, I was like, and I have not been back since. And in fact, I've gone to every other liquor store in the area, and I've actually checked and asked to make sure that none of the ownership overlapped. So again, to segue back to this point, somewhat similar to what's being in the zeitgeist of in this moment, I did want to make a very targeted boycott. I was not looking to blame every Asian owner but I did want to check. And I have been engaged in my own personal boycott. Actually, I have probably a good dozen personal boycotts going on for years. And I haven't literally gone back in there even one time, despite it being the closest, most convenient. And so all that to say, even I have, especially when I was younger, have experienced versions of this, have been fortunate enough to survive them. And the point still being, none of what anybody has said so far that Cyrus has said to have possibly could have maybe even possibly done was worthy of this response. And the child's lawyer should be ashamed of himself. I get on some level there should be, everybody deserves defense and all this other stuff, but to see that man have his blackness be so abused in a court of law in defense of child was just ridiculous. And then he went somewhere else and claimed that he's not doing it for money. He's doing it because he understands the importance that everybody deserves a defense. And I was like, that's equally bullshit. You did this to put your name out there and make yourself more money. And you should have not taken the case. No black lawyer should have taken that case. No. Well, I'll stop there. My bad. All right, Sudip. I'm sorry, man. I've gone on for a minute. I apologize. Let me go ahead, and then I'm happy to pull up your great article.
Oh
by
yeah,
the way,
sure.
too.
And sorry if I'm a little. Yeah, it's been. I was listening to that, defense stuff, and it was really annoying. I was listening to it while getting ready and listening to it in the shower, listening to it, just like pausing, writing some notes. And I've had similar experiences of being profiled, which I think adds to a layer of just some of the elements of race in the sense that you can also have different experiences. That's not the point of it, but different experiences of what Asian could be. So I've had, not the keg story, but I've had multiple instances in the most, you said, goofy ways too. Like I've had, like, I think it was a Barnes and Noble. I think I'm the last person to buy CDs. That's what my girlfriend tells me. And this was like a long time ago before I met her. And I went to the entertainment section to get a Maxwell CD. I think this is,
Good
and
taste.
yeah. And then I think it was like maybe the Beautiful Wing song or something. But I was like really, really obsessed with that song. And I went there, and this white lady, just older white lady, just instantly. And I wore a quote unquote puffy jacket. It wasn't as puffy as a North Face or anything. But like you said, it's winter. I don't understand. And then she was just instantly watching me, very apparent. My friend, who's also South Asian, he's lighter skinned than me. He might watch this, but he's a little light skinned. So the interesting thing was that he's taller, he's lighter skinned than me, and I'm pretty light skinned too. And he didn't face any of this. I mean, it's not to blame him, but it was a lot of layers. Now I can look back and think about some of the layers. But in the moment, she actually asked me to put my hands up, and she patted me down in the moment. I was kind of like you, kind of like
Wow.
yeah, I was kind of like laughing, chuckling, because I was kind of not making fun of her, but I was like, this is ridiculous, and then I was like, you know what, this is bullshit, just do it. And then she patted me down, and I'm like thinking in the moment, like, and my friend was pissed off at this point. He was like standing there, he was like,
I
what
think I
the
would
f?
have.
I know.
Yeah. That's I wouldn't.
Yeah,
No, because I was not laughing. Once the dude was,
yeah,
once it was acknowledged I was being followed in that moment, and then it got
right.
the words. I didn't find any of that shit funny. It only it was years later
Yeah. Well,
that
in
it
the
was kind
moment,
of funny. But in the
it,
moment,
it
no. And
in the
nobody
moment
tried to
for
put their hands on me either. That's crazy.
in the moment, it just felt like this is so ridiculous. Like you said, like when they talk to you about, like, laughed or chuckled about, oh, Dr. Ball. Sometimes the things that certain white people say, Asian people say, Latinos, I guess, it gets so stereotypically racist that sometimes you're just like, is this real life? That's how I felt in the moment, because I was like, I can't believe this is happening for a Maxwell CD. Not to add a little, but it's like, I can't believe I'm in my age group buying a CD, and then my friend was heated. He was like, I could tell he was like, we got to go somewhere else. But I was kind of like, I was like, no, I'm not going to let this white lady disturb. Like, this is the nearest Barnes and Noble. I'm not going to let her just do that to me. And then I did return, but like you, I did return. I went to the counter with the CD in hand. My friend was seething. And then she said, shouldn't you guys be working or something? It was summer or something. And I was like, that was the last straw. And then I was like, you know what? You can keep the CD. And we drove like 20 more minutes or 30 more minutes to get something else. And I've had other instances where my girlfriend has seen it, like, and she's white. And so this was at a bookstore where the guy, this is also very telling about the hierarchy. We can still have familiar issues, but still there's a hierarchy of who gets it worse, because it was almost like cartoonish. It was a bookstore in North Jersey that I used to really like. And after this incident, my girlfriend doesn't want us to go there. And it was a bookstore. I repeat, what? So I was looking at books, and I'm really goofy. I'm loud, like, oh my God, this book is great. And like, it's very apparent I'm looking at books. And this guy, she could notice this guy was like the store owner or something. This white guy was following me. And then a young black man came in, tall, a little bit slender. And he was clearly like a nerd. Completely changed course to him then. So it was like almost on the nose of American politics, where you sometimes, I see what you're saying, but for me, sometimes it's so ridiculous. It's like, are you serious?
Well,
Did someone write this? Did someone write
I'm
this?
not
No,
saying my response is the best. I'm just telling you what it is. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't have. I sometimes wish I could laugh some things off and just take it, But like that night, I couldn't even. And I had to sit in the parking lot for me. I don't know. It wasn't long, maybe a minute, and think about what I ended up having to do, which is go back to a party empty-handed, and they were closing, so this was it. There was just no more to get. There was no more drink for the night,
Right.
And that was my mission for this big house party we were having, this big family event. And I went back and had to just be like, look, I'm sorry. Like, I want to drink as much as anybody, but I can't.
Right.
I just can't. And I want to reiterate again, in the context of a public YouTube live, my returning the liquor and never going back to that liquor store is the absolute bare minimum. Isn't enough of I need a stronger phrase. It is an absolute compromise on my part. I feel, even now as I recount the story, actually every time I don't go there, when I go to get some liquor, I have a moment where I have a brief moment where I'm reminded, like, that I have compromised. I don't like that outcome. I want a very, 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 very different outcome just from my very limited situation. So this is why I also think on the other hand, that I think it's good on some level that some protective measures in society be put on managing these responses, because I don't think my response is appropriate. I don't think society could sustain if I did what I am like wanting to do, or even now. Like we would have an unsustainable society, and I do recognize that. So that's what I'm saying. Like but it's just such the bare minimum. And as I'm watching Cyrus's parents, and I'm watching the family, and I'm watching yet another. In your article, you have the press conference video. These responses are they're just insufficient. They may be right, they may be moral, they may be principled, they may be just. I don't know. I just don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like. And the dude said if the National Action Network and the NAACP had been called in, after he was like, how could the Black community let this man operate in this community for so long? And I'm thinking, on the one hand, he's right, but on the other hand, I'm saying Al Sharpton, Ben Crump, these are the heroes. Get the fuck out of here. Oh my God, man. Oh my God. Oh my God. So anyway, that's why I'm grateful for these conversations, because we need some kind of sober.
Well, no, I get it. Like, I don't really go out much anymore because of many reasons, but I mean, I think what's happening is you have vultures, like rhetorical vultures, like kind of spinning in the sky over this boy's death, not young man, boy's murder. That's what's going on, because you have some well-meaning people who are obviously angry and saying we should boycott Asian stores. And I don't give a shit. Like, you read my piece, I'm assuming, and it's like, this is the most reasonable response to be angry. I don't even care about the targeted as much. It's like general, in the moment, it's fine. Like, it's just people are angry. It's fine. There's a repeated pattern. And frankly, if you're an Asian-owned store and most of your consumers are Black and they don't respond by targeting you, that's because you built a relationship. So some of it is also based already in the context. You know what I mean? Like, if you are an Asian-owned store and the consumers who are mostly Black, let's say you're also next on the list, well, that's really about you. Like, there's something going on with your store that some people feel like this is due, you know? And there's a lot of typos in that piece. I wrote that really fast because I was just like, upset. But also just about what you said in terms of the political void, the rhetorical vulture spinning around.
My bad. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I didn't want to play the sound yet.
No,
I just wanted to.
The rhetorical vultures, the political spinning, the wheels. Like, this also speaks to, because then you have other folks like who are also, I don't want to say taking advantage of the situation, but you do have instances where, again, there's like a discourse, understandably, but like Black buying power, or the idea that it's about who owns the business per se, rather than a deeper conversation about anti-Blackness for sure. Because Rick's background is kind of interesting. I saw a video of this white guy who ultimately, I think, says what he did was right, so I didn't really give a shit that much. But I was looking for some info about Rick. It seems like he was originally from Hong Kong, which is a very key component of this, if that's correct. Like not just from mainland China. I'm not trying to presuppose every Chinese person who's Hong Kong is like, that different, but there's something there about Hong Kong versus mainland China. And then
say something else about that, please. What do you mean? Yeah.
Oh,
at some point at least, yeah.
I meant like, well, with the politics of it, that's been there for a minute. Like since it was a British colony for such a long time, even while the rest of China was liberated, yeah, you think it remained a British colony until the late '90s, right? I only know this based on Rush Hour movies because that's totally like I remember
Lord.
they talked about it in the Rush Hour. It's one of the reasons my dad loved the first one because they were shitting on the British because there was a handover of the colony. So, and then if you look at some of the protest movements in Hong Kong, again, there are legitimate grievances about maybe Chinese overstep. Some of it includes people waving U.S. flags. I think Marco Rubio met with some of the protesters from the Hong Kong movement, the umbrella movement that wanted to create democracy. But some of the people wave British flags, the old British. So let's just say there is a layer of thinking there, an ideology that's not exactly as free from capitalism and colonialist thought as maybe the rest of mainland China is, right? So that's a very distinct thing to me, if that's true. And then when he came here, I think the video explained how he was also a computer science specialist or educator. So he's been running the store for 11 years with his wife and I think two sons. But the thing that also
and
gets
he was from Hong Kong. Yeah.
Oh, he was?
Is
Okay.
from Hong Kong. Yeah.
Perfect.
He was born and raised there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect. Because it's like I think that is a big difference in terms of like, again, it speaks to our conversations about Asian and for me context, political and economic context as to where people are from. Really, it speaks to what they really believe, say, for example. But the other thing that's interesting, if he's running the store for 11 years, which we can talk about because that's the information I got from that brilliant defense attorney, who sounds like Woody from Toy Story. He like I mean, he does. I was trying to pinpoint his voice because he was like, look at me. And then there's a lot of things about him. I think he's one of the few black men who had white men's luck because some of the things in his argument weren't brilliant at all. Like at the end, he mentions his suit. He says he has his name tailored in his suit and it reminds him about details. And I'm like, how does this make sense? That's like what a white guy would say. Like, well, I have a buckle in my shoe. And it reminds me to always buckle down.
That's the point, though.
Yeah,
that's who he's talking to, and that's how he's talking as.
Yeah.
He's and I just a clip.
Watching shows with my father, and I'm old enough to date myself a little bit that we would actually listen to radio shows. And one of the radio shows that we would listen to quite often is a guy named Paul Harvey. And what he would do is he would tell stories. And then telling stories, what he would do is tell a story that he thought that everybody actually knew. He would tell a story and he would give details of a story that he thought that everybody actually knew already. And he would tell it, and he would tell it in his interesting way, but what he would do is intentionally leave out parts of the story so that people would be a little confused because they'd heard the part of the story that they thought that they knew, but he would leave parts out. And then he would take this huge pause after he was done and everybody think it was over, and then he would say this famous line. He would say, and now it's time for the rest of the story.
So I don't know what is and isn't good lawyering other than what I've seen on television and movies. I actually thought what he did here was a good device. I thought because his whole point, and even to his point about the name in the suit, I thought he did a good job because the whole point of his argument is you need to be looking at the fine details of this case. If you only look at it like most what I would consider logical people and focus on the fact that this man chased this boy down 100 yards and shot him in the back, then you'll convict. But I need you to not look at that. I need you to look at the very finer, the details.
Right.
So that's why, he does this slick thing. He says, look, I'm not, and let me see if I can find it. He said, I'm not going to have them take down. He said, I'm leaving this $1 thing up that the prosecutor put. He's saying, I'm not mad that you remember this. I agree, because if you thought the case was about Rick Chow shooting this boy over a $1 bottle of water, he should go to jail. He should be in hell. He in fact says he should go to hell.
Right.
But he's saying that's not what the case is. The case isn't about the dollar water. The case is about a gun-toting threat to Chow's son, who after being given a chance turned to run, and you don't know if that's not a threat, and the law says you are allowed to shoot. And that's why when he does this, he comes over here, he sits in the the testifying thing. He gets on the floor with the handgun. He puts on a whole show. He's he's very demonstrative. He's getting the gun out, and I mean he's doing this whole thing. So that's why I'm saying, and my point from, as I said at the beginning, unspoken in all of this is he's allowing his blackness to be used to convince a mostly white jury that this black boy's life is irrelevant. And that's what I found so disgusting about this performance, as probably good legalistically as it was. And I was just like, you how can he not see this? He knows what he's doing. That's why he took the case. That's probably why they went to him in the first place. And that's probably how he got the job, by telling them you need a black man to defend you.
Right.
And because who better to tell a mostly white jury, if not entirely white jury? I actually don't know. I got to look up I should have looked that up. I don't know if anybody knows, but I'm sure a mostly white jury, who better to convince them that this boy deserved it? And I just found it remarkable and disturbing, which after I eventually get back on track, again, why I think what we're trying to do here is very important, because there does need to be some sort of, again, sober analysis instead of just.
No, I think for me, I get what you're saying, and I agree. Like,
it wasn't mostly white, so I apologize. I have to double check. It wasn't mostly white.
Yeah,
so again, I would even I would switch it around, and even more to the point. Who better to convince black people that this boy deserved it? But I'll look it up. You're right. Fair enough.
The thing, though, that's
5 white, 5 black, and 2 other.
Wow,
that's ridiculous.
The thing about the defense thing, because it was like, I agree in some ways. Obviously, like, he did some, but to me, I still think the things he got away with was obviously he was okay. I think where I agree is that he was playing up to maybe elements of the crowd, to what they were most afraid of, because he does not refer to Cyrus as a boy. He keeps mentioning that he's a man. At one point, he said man.
That's
he says
right.
Young. The best thing he did was young man.
That's right.
And when he brought up child, it was at the end, but it was through the voice of the prosecutors, because he's saying, Cyrus had a gun. I know they're saying that kids with guns is not a problem, but it's a problem. So that's the only time he mentions that he's a boy. And then he also he basically said shoplifter. He did these things where he smuggled in framing that is quite, again, to our research, impactful in different ways about how other people of color look at black people, and even some ways how black people of a certain class interest or group interest internalize these things about themselves. But the point is, like, he kept smuggling in this sort of framing in a surreptitious way that I found, that's where I found very both, like, it was both like good for the audience to what you're saying, but also to me, it was just like, but this is where if someone else who was black was being charged with something, their argument would have to be super airtight, like in terms of avoiding a murder charge. This man literally ends with a suit. I know what you mean, but still he ends with his suit being embroidered with his name, which if he was a black man defending another black man for a case that was very different, I can assure you that there would be comments, because I read some of the comments. There would be comments saying, oh, look at him being so flashy with his suit. He got a suit with his name on it. But here it's about being professional, being put together, detailed with his name. And I'm like, and he has to look at it, because it no ego there apparently. And there was a few other things that were just so amazing to me in terms of rhetorical devices. Like because like you said, he does begin saying, this is not about a bottle. If it was about a bottle, I'd be upset, and he needs to go to hell. But it turns into a bottle, because he says, which speaks to to the thing that we're working about, how Asian store owners get seen and how they also, to the work of Claire Jean Kim, I think maybe next time we could read Bitter Fruit or something, because that is about the Red Apple boycott. I kept thinking about that
Good
book
idea.
because there it was the same deal. Now the Asian shop owner is, I mean, like, it's true they work hard, but at the same, I have other things to say about Rick Chow that I want to get off my chest too, just like you, because I'm, whatever, he's a, POS basically. But the thing is, then he says, just imagine you're a store owner and you're living on the financial, margins. You're losing your items. So then he does make it about the bottle, and he calls him the shoplifter lead. And also the other thing is, like, I kept writing, not just only the fact of what was, I think in one of the instances where he shot someone, I think it is, about beer, but another instance, I don't know, another instance he attacked someone who was stealing oven cleaner,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, that seems, I'm not saying see what the practicality of it, but that seems whatever, just deal with it. And also the thing that's so interesting, well, disgustingly so, is that this gets turned from a boy being chased, a boy who, ruffles his sweatshirt to show them nothing's in it. He does all of it, calmly leaves. There's no evidence of any scuffle because there ain't any. He's just running. And then they turn that into a story of two men, adult men, chasing someone, chasing a boy. I would be scared shitless if there's two adult men just shit, and one of his dumbass sons. I don't even know if he's his son, really. Like, how am I supposed to know that?
Prosecutor, I'll put the link in the show description.
Mhm.
But that former prosecutor said? She said that she thought that there would have actually been a case for Cyrus to claim self-defense, turn and shoot them.
Yes.
So
I was thinking that.
And then of course the question would have been, did he legally have a gun and all that other kind of stuff? But the point, just quickly to this point here, Dr. Ball, I think the prosecutor didn't have the best options for conviction. That is something I forgot to mention that came up in some of these discussions, that according to South Carolinian law, there weren't all of these other options. Like it was either basically murder or nothing. And, so they didn't have these lesser charges that they could have fallen back on and offered the jury to consider. So I think that probably had at least something to do with the thing. But again, to me, it doesn't make any difference because again, I'm starting with stipulating, which he did not.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm just stipulating that even if Cyrus had been stealing literally every single fucking thing in the store, he doesn't deserve to be shot in the back, especially 130 yards away, after running, after having not taken anything, after not brandishing any weapon. That was the other thing. I didn't even hear anything about, Rick Chow has all of this history of people coming in here and robbing him at gunpoint, and they're stealing his money and beating his fam. No, it's like, people steal from grocery stores. No shit. And if you're in a poor community and you have a corner, you're probably going to get some stuff stolen. Not that it's great for you and all that, you deserve it. I'm not saying you deserve to have everything stolen, but I don't think should be able to start shooting everybody down. And then if it's that big a deal, sell the shit and leave like you did anyway.
That's what I was going to say. If it's such a big deal, that's what I was going to mention with him being a piece of shit, then don't do it. Like I mentioned the other background about him being a computer science guy or whatever, and then buying the store and working it for the last 11 years. Just if you don't have the stomach for it and you can't manage your emotions, like this is a man with anger management issues. Can I just say, my dad used to own a store. He got tricked into owning a store because when he arrived here, his whole game plan was Queens, Brooklyn. So he arrived here in the greatest city of Earth, and he said, I'm going to go to do a PhD in, I think, Columbia. But then I happened. He never blamed me, but I remember when him telling him a story. He's like, yeah, and then you got bored.
You didn't show up by yourself. You know what I'm saying? They can blame you if they want.
No, he never did. Is what I put it together one day. I know. One day he put a story. He's like, oh, Sudip, I think you were. I was like, oh shit, and it was like, because he had to go back to the Columbia people and say, I need more than the stipend or whatever, because now I got a son. But so some other Indian people, Bengali people, convinced him, and these are like people who are the true representatives of the bourgeoisie, because they just know to be a successful business person in this country, you have to be craven, you have to be cunning. So that's the other thing, and he hates them. So anyway, they gave him advice. Just open the store, it's so easy. So he did, and I'm giving because the thing is, people stole from him. He had employees who would also tell him people stole from him. It was like back in the day in the 80s, it was like some, or maybe early 90s. What was it called? Like printers, sorry, copy ink and stuff. So he's like a Kinko's basically owned kind of stuff. And people would steal from him and people would like run off with things. And then his employees would try to protect it too. Like they'd be like, oh, you should be more. But what I'm saying is, my dad realized he didn't have, and also the main thing he blamed was the Italian guy raising the rent. So that's the main person he blamed, right? So that's the other thing.
Now that's deep.
Yep. So
that's deep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I just wanted to say too, just really quickly to my dad's defense, because he's very similar to me. Like he's loud and he talks a lot. But the one thing is, I never heard in his entire freaking life when he would tell that story any kind of animal. Like he would be frustrated. I think that's fine, but never in any of the instances did I feel like, what I should have done is get these people with a gun. Never once did he own a weapon. I don't think he knows anything about weapons like that. He's living in Brooklyn. The thing he would be upset about was like, things were crazy. Somebody did steal and then they unfortunately passed on in prison. An employee of his who loved him, he's a Puerto Rican guy. He was like, you got to do this and this. And his family was like, he had a complicated feeling about everyone, but he didn't like the guy raising rents. So this dude, and he gave up eventually. What I'm saying, this guy, I'm sorry, dude, nothing, you could leave. Be simple as that. If you can't handle it, just leave.
Which he did anyway. So they apparently they don't own the shop anymore. They sold it. I don't know to whom. But they found a way to anyway, they moved on. So
I'm suspicious who they sold to, because I think I saw a comment somewhere saying there could be a chance they sold it to, I don't know, like another family member. It's like to your story about all the overlaps, like making sure whatever liquor store you're going to, like, because there's networks out there. There are networks.
Of course.
When my family was propositioned to own a Dunkin', which was crazy because I never. Oh, to an Italian guy, the best of the best.
That's the thing. Like even here in Colombia. Yeah. So I'm complaining about the Asian shop owner. He's mad at me for at least I'm assuming in the moment being too black in his store, and yet at the end of the day, whatever our hostilities, he's paying rent to a very white run Columbia, Maryland political establishment.
Right.
So your father's story is like, so you got the Asian shop owner,
right,
the whatever diverse black brown customer base, and then the white ownership.
Well, to my dad, but the other thing about context, this is South Carolina. Like that's the other thing. I'm just like weirded out. Like this is mean. I'll just be honest. Like sometimes there's different waves of Asian immigration. And obviously with my parents' immigration history, there are a lot of Asians who arrived in the coasts, right? They arrived in there. Again, still racist, still can be messed up. But the thing about some of these areas and the way the waves happen is like, I don't know, you're forced to contend with certain issues that you can't necessarily quote unquote get away from. Like it's New York, it's Brooklyn, right? You can't get away from all the South Asians, Arabs, Puerto Ricans, you know what I mean? Like my dad was like, yeah, well, it is what it is. Like, it was still frustrating. But South Carolina, though, I'm assuming it's just bizarre. It's the context of where you go, right? It's like why would you? I'm not trying to. No, I am blaming him. It's weird. It's like he went to a place in Brooklyn, and he always would complain later on about the Desi folks who screwed him over by convincing him to own a store, and then he blamed the Italian guy for raising his rents continuously and not giving him any reason. And it's not just kudos to my dad. It's more like it maybe speaks to how he was raised, but that's what's missing in this context to connect back to your thing about now how people are saying Al Sharpton's a save. Like, I know you're not saying this, but I feel bad because it's like the people are desperate. Black folks are, rightfully needing a real vanguard to take on this problem. But that also speaks to the times we're in and how people are getting socialized. Like we don't have that necessarily in that way. Maybe not in South Carolina, which also had an Indian American governor, Nikki Haley, who, changed her name, I think converted to Christianity and like had a coming to Jesus, pun intended, moment of taking down the Confederate flag. But it was still under the auspices of saying the Confederate flag means a lot to people. So this is all tied in a very grotesque but very American way, right? And with Rick Chow, then get your butt and leave. You didn't have to do this at all. And first of all, don't be a little bee about having people walk in and being like, exactly. Like when I saw the note about oven cleaner, I'm like, are you crazy? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I
mean,
would be
that's the thing.
incensed. Yeah.
That's the thing. That should have been the whole thing. So
Yeah.
so everybody on the jury should only, again, whatever the defense attorney's skill sets or whatever he was able to do with his closing argument, everybody should have just been sitting up there thinking. So you saying, so after all is said and done, all this boy was thought to have done is steal some water, and they ran down there and shot him.
And he said the yards too. He said, why did he shoot
130?
Yeah, he said he didn't shoot him at 20. He didn't shoot him at 30. Yeah, maybe Rick Chow is a nervous little person who had to aim his gun, and he shot
first
him.
of all, the video footage to me is very clear. Cyrus has enough of a head start that at a full sprint, there's no way Rick Chow as an old man is going to catch up in 20 yards. Right. So what ended up, I think, to me, when listening to the way, because the defense attorney is saying they didn't shoot him right away, they didn't shoot him there, they waited all the way till it got done, and I'm saying no, they didn't have a chance to shoot him right away. They had to wait for him. They had to catch up to him after he probably got tired and he fell down. Then they caught up to him and then shot him. And again, as the prosecutor said, the only people to claim that Cyrus turned and pulled a gun are Chow's. So how the jury is letting that pass is absurd too.
Well, he mentioned the cop. He mentioned the cop briefly. He said also a cop had a similar thing, but it's a cop. So who, like, it was like a.
But it's a cop who was not an eyewitness, though.
Exactly.
So just real quick, I need to play something in response to Yipper and anyone that agrees with that position that Yipper is taking. I just want to play something to clarify myself and my position here.
I am tired of that. I am not passing. I am black. Do you hear me, man? Do you understand? I am black. I'm a nigga. You understand me? I was born black. I live black, and I'm a black because some cracker that knows I'm black.
So let's just be clear. The white supremacists find me, Yipper. You may think they need an eye exam, but they find me, Yipper. So let's just be clear. Okay, back on track. Shout out to Sam Greenlee and the Spook Who Sat by the Door in that classic film. And there was a brief moment where my homeboy Bashi and I were going to do a film that was meant to be a part 2 taking place in Baltimore. And I had requested that I get to act out that scene. I wanted to do an updated version of that scene for the 21st century, play a character where I get to get that scene. But yeah, anyway, but like so many of my project ideas, it didn't. And according to the late great Bruce Dixon, co-founder of Black Agenda Report, who was born and raised in Chicago and who knew that actor, actor apparently went on to become a police officer.
Oh, that's a wholesome story.
Yeah, an unfortunate turn, but anywho, but in any event. So okay, look, we still have your article. You had sent a speech, that you thought was read, that I read, and there's a clip from the comedian Godfrey that we've been asked to also look at too.
Yes.
So and anything else you want to get to. So I just want to whatever you want to do.
Yes. We can go with the Godfrey thing first if you want, because I feel like there's a lot there in terms of how the Asian guy is annoying, and also Godfrey is right in many ways actually, but also how it can trend toward, because one of the things I wrote in my short Substack is that there is a discourse void again when it comes to like what's still missing from the conversation about boycotts, that like I said, general boycott, I don't give a shit. Like I don't have a I don't have a stake in these Asian stores, which is back to what we've been talking about, like having an Asian owned store. I never walked into a Patel cash and carry and like took in a breath and said, this is what he's making is what I'm making, like that. I mean, as a kid, I hated it because it's weekend shopping. I'm stuck with my parents. Like, you got to come with us. Like, I don't want to come with you, but I'm just saying that's something I want to get into too, because I think that even with the boycotts, which is reasonable of a response, there is a lot of things missing as to like how people are also again associating power in that way, because there's an assumption.
No, this is
right?
Exactly right. It is first of all, again, if we were to look at that situation, I'm sure Rick Chow and his wife and his son were probably in that store in some form of combination 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it to the point about your Patel comparison, it's not likely. I mean, the amount of Chows, even, never mind all of Hong Kong's population or the broader, the amount of people that were eating, pun intended, off of this situation is not that many, or they're not eating that well, because at the end of the day, their customer base is largely poor and Black. So then the question of the boycott, I think, again, it's an obvious, first step thing to do, to just boycott that store. But then again, all these other questions come up. To what extent does that have an impact? To what extent do people have options? What are the alternatives? What level of other political organization is involved? And then what are, of course, the demands? I mean, what is the point? Is it just to never go back in there ever again? Or what I would like to see is to say, let's pass the Cyrus wealth redistribution bill that says, regardless of the owner, they are a hired employee of the community that uses this store, and they will be given a salary as management of this property and this business, but the proceeds, certainly the profit, are going to be redistributed back into the community to address, I don't know, to whatever extent possible. And then maybe that could even be used to further the point and the contradiction about what is possible here. Because then you could say, even if we remove the Chows or whatever as ownership and reduce them to just a salaried employee as management, how much is actually being generated and what could actually be done with that? And I think that would lead to some important revelations as well. But okay. Let me pull up this Godfrey clip and
reporting live from Hypers Club, 5 Plus News. I'm Janab.
So we will boycott a lot of, and we will affect your.
It feels that way too often we hear stories of Black teens being killed by adults of other races. We've had stories in the past that include the names of Latasha Harlins, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Jordan Davis, and now Cyrus Carmack-Belton, a 14-year-old who was shot in the back while fleeing a local convenience store in South Carolina after allegedly stealing 4 water bottles.
See, look at that head start right there.
The shooting,
they're not catching him in 10 yards,
would finally see its day in court this past week, with the Asian owner of the store where the alleged theft and killing would take place would be found not guilty for murder, sending instant reactions across social media. On Thursday, Godfrey, who is no stranger to speaking out against injustice, would sound off over the story and would even call out an Asian man who would go viral by daring the Black community to boycott Asian-owned businesses in their neighborhood.
Man that did it is Ricky Chow or whatever. There's other footage of him fighting Black kids and harassing Black kids, and he shot at Black people before. So this guy has had a habit of doing this to Black people in South Carolina. So we want to boycott this specific store because he killed somebody's son for no reason.
So again, but even just quickly, that's the point. Like Chow doesn't even own the store anymore. He hasn't owned the store apparently for a couple of years now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I thought I saw a report that said he sold it maybe even in 2023, in the same year that this happened, but certainly by 2025, I think definitely by 2025, I'm pretty sure he didn't own it. So he's been out of there for a minute at least. So again, the question becomes, do you boycott it as a symbol? And then to what end? For what what is the goal
Yeah.
of the boycott?
over a bottle of water. What we want to do is boycott people who treat us like.
I love when the black community says, let's boycott Asian businesses. Please do. We'll get rid of the Chinese takeout.
Yeah, take the Chinese takeout out. That's whack anyway. You serve us bullshit, GMO, all that. We get fat because the food that's in the hood is not good for the black people. There
I actually agree with this point.
is good Chinese food, but the shit you serve is usually trash. Black man invented dry cleaning anyway. We'll be fine with the dry cleaning. We can find another place to get our dry cleaning at. We don't need liquor. See, all the things, a lot of stuff you were
Hold up now,
naming-
Godfrey. Hold up now. I'm just
anyway, so we need to change up our anyway. Liquor things, of course, a lot of stuff made in Asia. That's fine, but guess what else? Asians do copy black culture. That's what you do. So you should stay the fuck out of black culture too.
So that's what I wanted to say. That's one point I wanted to respond to just very quickly. This is another misnomer here. Yes, Asians and many others copy black cultural expression and performance, but black people don't own it. Black people are not in control of black culture, and black people have never in this country been in control of black culture. So this goes back to the same kind of point, I think, similar to what we were making about the Asian store owner, the black customer, the white owner of the white landlord. It's the same kind of thing. The only reason Asians and others around the world know to engage Black American popular culture is because it has been weaponized and taken over and corrupted and used as an imperial weapon for a long time, even against black people here in the United States. So, and by the way, I technically don't actually agree with the sort of, again, broad-based, blind, disassociated from actual goals and politics boycotts of every Asian store. I do but I do agree with the whole point about the nasty food.
And then you say
A lot of us do go to college. You're being outworked by immigrants who barely speak English, and you're not embarrassed?
black women have the highest degrees in America. Black people go to college too. So yeah, we will boy.
So, and again, I think a better part of the conversation would be to, if it were possible to again, I don't believe in arguing with people who are disingenuously engaged, but the point would be if Asian and other immigrants are able to enjoy college at rates higher than Black Americans, it has everything to do with their class status before they got here, and everything to do with what Black people fought for and have had paved the way for others to take it. And then lastly, it's still ultimately a handful of percentage of each population going to college and making all of the money and benefit from that class privilege in the end anyway, creating wealth and enjoying wealth created by other people that only they get to enjoy. So go ahead. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say too, like with the like it's so stupid what the Asian guy is talking about, the Asian American guy is talking about. I was trying to place his accent. It sounds very Northeast, but he was also very much running the same kind of line that you can hear, like you've been engaging with when it comes to Black ownership of business. Like I wrote down really quickly again, a privately owned business is not a community project, right? And so if you are Asian and there are like Hyundai or something or Honda from Asia, what does it have to do with you? How many cars they buy? You know what I mean? Like, and so that's where I'm always so confused when that argument comes on either side. Obviously, with the Asian guy being like, "Well, you're going to lose out on this and this and this," but it's like Asians. I'm not trying to make it about Asia, but Asians lose out. Like on the nail salon
That's
industry,
a good point.
The chemicals that are used, a lot of the female workers organize against that shit because it's terrible. It gets you sick. And they get mistreated by customers of all backgrounds. I've seen it. I know about it. That's
and
really
if this guy is
thing.
Chinese and everybody's eating Chinese food, how does he benefit not only from everything else China does, but how does he benefit from what Japan does and Korea does?
It doesn't make
and
any
India
sense.
does.
Yeah, exactly. And then also the other funny thing is like, that's why I brought up the Hong Kong thing. Is like, I don't know if the Chinese or the Chinese government would claim him Like, you know, like he sounds dumb. Like why would President Xi, like, is there, we talked about this a while ago as a joke. I think it was on this show or another one that I did, but it was like a joke about like, yeah, oh yeah, it was on here. It was like, oh yeah, President Xi or Mao was just waiting for, oh yeah, we talked about the first Asian guy who was moving into an all-white neighborhood. And he
Right,
talked
right.
about if he wasn't let in, the communists will
The
follow.
communists.
Yeah. So it's like President Xi's out here meeting with North Korea, with Russia, trying to build like an actual like alternative to U.S. American hegemony. So that's good.
It's
He's
like
doing a good
like
job.
the Asian business version of that ridiculous case against Amalia Yeshitela and them down in St. Petersburg. That idea that a local election in St. Petersburg, Florida, was the beachhead for the Russian invasion or something like that. It's like you know, it's like this Hong Kong shop owner is the beachhead for Mao's invasion, or you know, or Xi's invasion of the U.S. mainland,
or the reverse.
Reverse, right?
It's somehow this Asian guy, East Asian guy, is claiming, if he's Chinese, claiming successes that don't belong to him. Like the Chinese government too, if he wants to claim China, let's just say that the way they built their economy wasn't through anti-blackness. It wasn't through random privately owned people living in places that don't need them. I'm just being harsh. They don't need privately owned businesses run by Asian folks who don't know what's going on. They need good relationships, and you still need goods and services, but they don't need that. What China did was built an economy of success that was not built through, say, Asian heroics. And even then, there is a lot of Latino, like if I go to Edison, Island, there's a lot of Latino workers in these spots, right? It's all built through their labor. I've seen some Indian owners like looming over them, where my dad would just sometimes he just tells me, look at this Indian guy. I mean, we're Indian, but he talks so loud. Look at this Indian guy acting so weird. I was like, oh my God, just shut up. But like now I understand what he's talking about. So it's like none of this makes any effing sense about how
that is the other
distributed.
thing.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of Latinos in the back of these Asian, and there's a I think it's meant to be from a spot from, I think, Afghanistan.
Oh,
but cool. After the first person at the counter,
it's Latino.
It's everybody kitchen is Spanish. You know, you hear that salsa rocking back there. I'm like, I'm in Afghanistan beyond what
I've seen it too at some spots where I go for dosas. It's all Latino people. They're like, you know, at the buffet, and there's some Indian. Like, there's always an old uncle guy, Sikh, who is pushing carts out there. All I'm saying is that Asian
But we
guy,
explained it though. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I just
we've shown it though. Yeah, go ahead. Good. Finish your point.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
But we've shown in our project how that happens. The Donut King is the example. The Donut King's own kids want to stay there working because he made all this money. They want to go to college and live a bougie lifestyle. So what do they have to do? They got to find the next pyramid scheme crop of poor laborers to come in. And who are you going to get in 2026, particularly in the state of Maryland, for sure? Who are you going to get? So the front people might be from whatever region, whatever, but everybody doing the work, because again, that's the point. Anyway,
no, I agree with that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No. I'm sorry because we're on the same wavelength. It's just the frustration because it's like, I mean, listen to this guy. He's like, forget your hair products, forget your nail salon, and I'm like, you work at all these places. You own all these places, and why are you also now? It's so stupid because he's seen as this guy with his followers as representing. But it's like also that goes back to the problem of social media in this day and age where you don't have actual representatives. You know, like I'm not trying to be an old grumpy guy, but back in the day when I wasn't around, at least I could say like, all right, there's a tour talking person and he has the gravitas and he got stamped by these groups and he came from those groups and now he's at Howard talking to other groups. But here it's like some guy with a phone is like with a lot of followers like, yeah, if you want to boycott Asian stores, come at us. And it's like, who are you?
First of all, I think that's a really good question. Who is that guy? Where is he coming from? Why is everybody sharing this one dude's video? And he's honestly the only one I've seen. I'm sure other Asians might feel that way, but I haven't seen a whole bunch of, I don't know. I might not. Let me just play a little bit more of what Godfrey has to say here.
And we will affect your.
Now, as far as the video, Godfrey
he's wrong about that, though. Godfrey is wrong about that. The effect that black boycotts will have is limited unless they are organized at levels that I don't think currently are even close to existing. That would mean, again, having a clarity of goals, being organized in at least if you're targeting just one store in one local community, you have to be organized enough that nobody's going in there, that people have whatever alternatives to whatever that place, whatever it was providing, they have some sort of alternative. And then what's the goal? If it's just to put it out of business, okay. And then maybe you get one corner store put out of business. But beyond that, it would have to be something much larger
Reference,
than that.
it will be first shared by content creator named Hear Me Out, who appears to have since deleted his page. In the video, he will go on to express how bad it would be for Black communities if they go against Asian-owned businesses. Itself would upset many Black users online.
I'm just skipping that dude because we've already heard his argument.
As well as would create a divide on how Black people should engage with Asian-owned businesses in their neighborhoods.
I'm going to say what a lot of y'all don't want to hear. If you're going to be online outraged that that man murdered that little boy, because yes, 14 years old is a little boy. That's a child. That's not a young Black man. I don't care what anybody says. You need to stay out of their nail salons. You need to stay out of their beauty supply stores. You need to stay out of their gas stations, their corner stores. We need to have a backbone. As a collective, the Black community is spineless. I don't care. I will say it. We haven't efficiently boycotted shit since the Montgomery bus boycotts. I can't think of a time that the Black community has actually realized the power of the Black dollar, withheld it, and made a change from boycotting. Y'all be talking about Target, but Target, you put a little dent in their sales. They're still up, functioning, running, not shutting down stores, doing what they want to do. Haven't made any real change because y'all can't stay out of Target.
Let me address that funny looking boy that got up on this.
So, I'm happy to go back to it, and if you want to say, but I just wanted to just quickly say to that, I agree about the point about the Montgomery bus boycott reference and the lack of it being duplicated. But again, the power of the Black dollar is misunderstood. It's powerful only to the extent that the community is properly organized with, again, a clarity of goals, a certain, I think, political consciousness, and a recognition of how the economy works, which I don't think comes with these kinds of sort of surface level arguments. So I also, by the way, the Target thing was, again, a Black bourgeoisie executive level effort that had nothing to do with any actual grassroots organization in the first place. And by the way, somebody mentioned him, Jamal Bryant. Please check Dr. Dennis Asar Winkler's recent discussion of Jamal Bryant and his claims around his degrees, which is a fascinating. We have a Bryant problem. Anyway, so, but I think that's the other thing again is, while I get the initial response of saying let's boycott everything Asian, what I would prefer is that this lead to, as I've said already, a Black radical, organizationally led or organized effort that says, let's step back and better study and educate ourselves on how the economy works and what our relationship is to it and what potentially can and cannot be done. Let me just stop there and let me just stop there for a second and give you a chance to say anything that you wanted to say so far.
No, I agree. I think that was the comment that stuck out to me. And again, that's how I separate some people who are leading with this topic to make other claims I want to also get into, which is the claim about how Black and brown people and other people don't have any connection. Like, I fear that discourse picking up, which I actually do want to politely, respectfully contend with from my perspective and what I know. But really quickly, what I wrote down too about the Montgomery. Well, first of all, this is from my perspective. I do obviously think Black people do have a backbone, and I do think Black
that was the
people,
point I'm
yeah.
making.
And I do think that Black people have done other boycotts like apartheid and stuff. Again, I'm fairly young, but I know that there's been lots of attempts at boycotts that have been part of a bigger strategy. Which then goes to your point, though. What those movements did was, yes, they had the economic boycott element, but even with the Montgomery bus boycott, it was also a worker strike, right? It was bigger than just refusing to shop at white-owned stores. It was a refusal to work at even a white, silly to say white-owned home, but white-owned house as a domestic laborer. That's why in some cases there were all these funds that were created beforehand through Dr. King's efforts to raise those funds so that people could take care of themselves and not feel compelled to even take a bus or go to work. So it was part of this more networky strategy. And shout out to Alden Morris's work, The Origins of the Civil Rights Movement. I think that's it's like 1984, but classic to me that I use in my dissertation. So that's one thing that I, of course, agree with. And I think that's what's still missing. I think people have this assumption that it's really just about the dollar, not paying someone, rather than you need to, what you're saying, a coordinated effort that includes a lot of overlapped strategies, worker strikes, and the worker strikes don't have to be from the store, because as we know with the Chow family, it was just their crazy ass family owning that place, following Black teens around. So obviously, what are you going to do? Like hire, work to get hired and not get hired. So, but the point is, you can have friendly strikes or Black folks, and again, that's against the law, which speaks to what we're talking about with the but still, a lot of things are against the law before that people butt up against. So if there are like enough Black folks in another industry nearby that is really important, they could strike there and say, we will not stop our striking until, say, this store goes into community hands, or several of these stores agree with an agreement about how they're going to treat people, something like that. So that's the bigger coordinated effort. And I just want to, again,
Damn treatment. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. But what I mean is something that, could be an actual power thing. Like you could imagine workers at maybe a car plant, even in Detroit or somewhere where they still exist. And they're just like, or maybe in the Sun Belt, they're like, we care about what happened to Cyrus, so we're refusing to work. And that would be a thing stronger than just groups of people refusing to work at that store, because that is just one note of it.
But again, and I'm glad you harped on, because I completely forgot my point about that. That when she said, first of all, the reason so much propaganda has been waged in psychological warfare, counterinsurgency against the Black community, reducing Black political demands to these kinds of vague boycotts, is because of the backbone Black people have exhibited and continue to exhibit. That's yes. The point.
Yes.
So it part of what our project and some of my work and it has been meaning to do is to address these nonsensical claims about Black people, that right. Black people have a culture of poverty, or have no, whatever, just all these right. other things, including this thing here about Black people just don't have a backbone. Black people don't want to work with each other. Black people don't care about each other. None of that is the right. reality beyond the norm of any other community, by the way. So
right.
So whatever. I definitely want to get, and this is sort of my point. None of what that sister was saying and so much of this other discussion and Godfrey and some of these other discussions are pointing to are what I like about our project is why are Asians, specifically certain kinds of Asian populations, finding themselves in these hostile relations with Black communities? What is the history behind that? What is the nature of an economy that welcomes this cyclical, never-ending, repeating relationship of poverty, distance, hostility, and then a legal and social system that ultimately will support the killing of Black people? Somewhere in there, I would like to see part of the response include that and get us past the understandable. And I even started in my own version of this morning, just angry responses and saying, let's just turn away from everything Asian. Oh, like, oh, fine. Okay. But after we calm down and think about this for a second, let's look at what's really going on. And then again, start with that specific community. I'd be very interested. What is they said that community is, at least, I think, I forgot if there was a percentage, but mostly Black.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the per capita. What is the GDP of that local community or town or whatever? What are the histories behind how the Chows ended up there and why not a Black owner? What would the value be to the Black community if the owner were Black?
Right.
And perhaps, and fair to the point, perhaps Cyrus is still alive, but financially, politically, what ultimately is like, that's what and then I would like to see big demands put on it. Like, let's really do this. Like, let's really like use, I don't like the way that sounds, but put Cyrus's killing to some different use, to say, this store, we even call it Cyrus's store, and Cyrus's store is going to be community owned. And as I've said a minute ago, we'll hire a manager and we'll hire a staff. So you don't have to have Rick and his wife and son in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, stressed, mad at the world, hating everybody that comes in there. Woo, 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 woo. And then if you have Asians and Latinos and whites and Black people who live in that community all going to Cyrus's store, benefiting from the wealth produced at Cyrus's store, from the exchange and the labor and all of that. I don't know. But that's the kind of thing I would like to see. And again, I'm saying this as the absolute barest of minimums.
Right.
So, all right. Do we want to play any more of this here?
If you want.
Yes.
After talk about Black people needing the Asian community and how what we do ain't gonna really affect them and all this type of stuff, and how we need their nail salons and their restaurants and all this and XYZ, then why the fuck y'all in our communities? How about y'all stay out of our communities?
But that's the question. That's at least part of what we're trying to. Why are Asians in these Black communities? And I think we saw some of that in even in the story of Yuri Kochiyama, when we talked about her and her family. They move into communities that they can afford and where whites are going to allow them to move. And then in that instance, they created a relationship with the Black community that seemed pretty dope.
Yeah.
Based on internationalist, communist, socialist, radical politics.
Right.
So,
but it goes to the thing, like, a lot of Asians are positioned structurally as middlemen.
Yeah.
Also, like, that's the thing. Like, this is a very colonial process that, like Rishi Sunak, the former prime minister of the great nation of Great Britain, he is Indian, right? I think born in the UK, but his family is from Kenya, or at least East Africa, and there South Asians, especially Indians, were positioned structurally as the middlemen, because the white people do need some kind of false relationship that doesn't allow people to really interrogate until it's too late about what position they're in. So they allow a brown face to be the middleman. And Ngui Watango writes about this in Weep Not, O Child, where he has a distinct Indian character who just berates the young Kenyan boy who's seen as this shining light. And of course, the end of the story, spoiler, I mean, it's a very dense story, doesn't really have spoilers. You get the sense that the boy's mission was wrong, to be this bright light doing decolonization when he should have joined his brother in the Mau Mau. But the thing is, the story was consistent with the Indian guy just yelling at him, berating him, but he was the middleman. He was he did not see a white guy in front of him. He saw a brown guy who also, no excuses, taking on that role. So I think that's exactly what's happened. That's what's happened here. We have some Asian folks who have more resources, not enough to be allowed in so-called white areas predominantly, unless there are maybe a certain kind of Asian who also does something fusion related or could offer that, or be in a community that's Asian American and upper class, which is
like the other Mr. Chow that we covered that takes his position within Hollywood, right, and performs
Crazy.
white,
Yes.
white preferred Asianness or
Yes,
whatever.
yes, that guy was.
So, yeah.
Oh my God, I
That
forgot
guy
about
was
that guy.
wild, right? That's what I'm saying. So like, this is we've
Oh,
Sudip,
wow.
we've gone into the
Yeah, I forgot
we've
about
been
that.
into the, we
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know
Oh, wow.
but again, I fully understand where she's starting here. I would like to see, because this is, again, particularly for those of us of a certain age, we've been hearing this version of an argument literally my entire life. I mean, I actually don't remember there not being a version of this
Yeah.
discussion in my life. Yeah.
I've been privy to this for a while, because as a journalist too, I remember in DC, I went to maybe Southeast DC when I used to live in DC. And one of the things I wanted to focus on, I think it was Marion Barry. And this is obviously when he's not mayor anymore. And he did say some really disrespectful comments, but I found it kind of interesting. Like he said about something about Asian still fronts like takeout spots are disgusting. He went really all in, but there were African Americans. The funny thing about my identity, when people are so-called calling you out, my identity with Asians is I'm Asian. And then with black folks, I'm sometimes in certain areas are racialized as Muslim or not Asian. So it's like I was able to hear both sides that day. It was fun. I knew that was going to happen.
When the hostility and the jokes start, people really don't have time for specifics. But
it fits the part. It's interesting because like my editors at the time was like, "Oh, you want to do?" They never published it because it wasn't enough there per se to them, which I get. But they're mostly white. They didn't understand. I knew instantly if I go into certain neighborhoods, I'd be getting the facts from both. So the Asian store owners were quote unquote afraid of the black consumers and felt tense from that. But then the black folks, and again, a whole range of them too, clearly black folks who are middle class in that area were coming up to me, and I said to them, yeah, you can just tell me, you'll be off record. And they would be like, I think this woman when it was like, listen, I'm here barely because the food is whatever, but the place looks not good. And I did look in, I'm not trying to make an assumption, but I did obviously walk in. It's not good. There's like a bulletproof, place where you put the food and you put it in. I'm like, this is not exactly like a best relationship to build. But I just remember that day because a lot of people told me what was on their mind. So like you said, this kind of issue, obviously or different generationally, but this kind of issue has been here for a long, long time, unfortunately. And Marion Barry, to his credit, brought it up. I don't know what instigated it, but he brought it up, and he was saying something that a lot of black folks agreed with, which I understood.
And again, absolutely. And so again, this is sort of my point. Look, I think we've all heard and if we're honest, we all know what at least elements of all communities think of all other communities, and it's often hostile. My humble vantage point. The question, though, again, related to this project, I think, is attempting some sort of an objective analysis as to how it got that way.
Yeah.
And if we care. If we care. If we don't care, we could just keep doing the same. And we can. Some of the jokes are even funny. Some of the things even said about me are kind of funny. So we can all get back into the, and in fact, speaking of that, I did pull this back up. I don't want to give anyone any undue credit, but I do. Did I not? This is so irritating when this happens. But I think I did not get yeah, I did. And it's just not playing. That's what I thought. So the comedic timing is a little bit off, but I did jump back to this. I can't help but have thought about this scene again.
Pizza sling and spaghetti bending, Victor Mon, Perry Como, Luciano Pavarotti, Solo Mio.
Slanty-eyed, me no speaky American, on every fruit and vegetable stand in New York. Bullshit Reverend Sun Young Moon, Summer Olympic 88 Korean kickboxing Sabaran bitch.
You Goya bean eating, 15 in a car, 30 in an apartment, pointy shoes, red wearing, menudo, meter, Puerto Rican cocksucker. Yeah, you.
It's chip. I got good price for you. Near catchy. How I'm doing? Chocolate egg cream drinking, bagel and lots, banana for this Jew asshole.
Yo! Hold up! Time out! Time out! Y'all take a chill. You need to cool that shit out. And that's the double truth.
Ruth. I used to love that scene. I used to love that movie.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
From time to time when these things happen, I do think about it, and it does
Yeah.
make me laugh. It does make me laugh to think, it's like, let's, but and of course, this is one of the shortcomings of all of Spike's films.
You're right.
Is that after the comedy and the reference to the real, there's no ultimate analysis. There's no attempt. There's no real ability to explain.
Right.
He got away with one.
Yeah,
he had to say he had to call a whole bunch of other people a whole bunch of other things to get it to get away with it. And then, as Amiri Baraka pointed out, at the end of the movie, Mookie shows you who he is. The black bourgeoisie will be quick to throw the trash can through the window, let someone else get killed, and then come back tomorrow morning and literally pick the money off the ground that the white man throws on the floor for him. I said, damn, Amiri, that was rough. And he was right.
Yeah.
And he was right. I go too far. I need a timeout. I go too far sometimes. That's a fact. That's a fact. Well, Yipper is Yipper my wife? I wonder if Yipper is actually my wife on an Alias, because Yipper seems to know me very well. Yipper, do we know? I'm telling you, Yipper. One day Yipper's going to reveal themselves to me. This is going to be my wife under an alias or somebody that I know very well. No.
That's convincing.
Yeah, convincing, right? That's convincing.
Yeah.
All right, look, mate. So what else do you want to get to? What else did we want to get to? We haven't even really done with your piece yet. So
yeah, we could get to that. I just want to add, but to your point, I think what's missing is still political economy from a lot of these things. And of course, with that scene, I used to like that movie a lot too. I used to be a big Spike Lee fan after Miracle at St. Anna, because that's when I was growing up.
I did like that movie.
Yeah, and I was really like, that's great. I was so excited to see it. I didn't quite understand it because I was still relatively young. I was like, wow, this is more violent than I thought. And then I started digging into these other films. But what's interesting, even in that scene, is how all the cursing is not the same. Like what the Italian guy, John Turturro, says is really bad. Yeah. Like, how do you compare being called an animal to being said you're a Maserati or whatever, opera singer guy? Like, there's no comparison. And then you look at the cop, he has his baton out. I just find this very interesting, like these positionality, which is, again, to our point, you can have with Chow, there's definitely anti-blackness interpersonally. That is not denying it. I am saying it from my gut that if there was a white kid who came through the same way that Cyrus did, they would maybe be lightly annoyed, but they would not chase him. They would not get angry with him. The son, who looks like a frat kid, when he turns around, looks with his hat and all that, he does not look weak. He's a big guy. That's the thing I want to also mention. He's a big guy, and he's running after you. So the anti-blackness is there, but to our project too, not saying even if it wasn't there, and saying that even if Cyrus was never murdered, which would have been a great alternative, still the positionality of the Asian shop owner is the shop owner in the area. And the positionality is what is the problem still. Like the same thing with the critiques people have of, capitalists or whatever. Like, it could be a nice capitalist, give you a 401k that's good, but nevertheless, your positionality or relationship to that guy still puts you in a subservient position. And so that's what I'm always thinking about, what's missing. Like, even with that Asian guy conversating about Asian businesses being the vanguard of something, his positionality, if I'm being honest, is probably he's just a guy who goes to his job, right? Not giving him, but he goes to a job, doesn't own anything. And so it's like, this is what's happening. And I feel like what I was also saying before about the boycotts are good. It's just that everything else needs to also work with the boycott. The civil rights movement was not just boycotts. It was targeted, coordinated actions in an international scene whereby the Soviet Union were showing really honest pictures of young kids being thrown against the wall because of the hose. So
and it was escalating. It was the civil rights movement, and particularly under King, was escalating, and he was recognizing the shortcomings in his own lifetime of just a boycott of the bus. And that's why he was talking about permanent settlements, blocking flow, strikes. He was killed supporting a labor strike. So like people, all of that stuff, like so that's why a lot of these social media style takes and responses are lacking, because they're not drawing on that wonderful history of Black people not being, what did she say?
They lack a backbone.
Come on. So we even talked about Ella Baker earlier in our series of, and the withholding labor from the domestic workers and all of that stuff that you were talking about. I mean, that's
counterinsurgency, like you said. That's why it stuck out to me, because I've heard it from older Black folks too, who also again position it as like they could learn from the Asians. But I'm always like, I hear from Asians too, like my dad's background, my mom's background, they're always like, oh, we should be like them and we don't have this. But I'm like,
but they don't mean Mao and Ho and Yuri.
Right, exactly. But they don't mean history, period. Not giving any like when a Black person says that, anger aside, what triggered me is the fact that, again, it just shows us how much, like to your point, how much counterinsurgency has happened to segue people into believing and internalizing a concept of somehow Black people being insufficient themselves, which is not true. Obviously, Black folks have been, we just had 5 years ago the George Floyd uprisings, which a lot of people were part of, but a lot of Black folks led. And what put them down wasn't so much of like, oh, they just gave up. It was like police shooting tear gas into random Black neighborhoods here in Philly to prevent them from even going outside. Like saying, not only are we going to pursue you when you're on the driveway, we're also going to shoot tear gas where it's going to be such a problem for you to even exit. Like that's what happens, to your point. Like Black people are being led to believe they don't have a history. You know, and it's the same thing with other groups too, with this Chinese guy or whatever. It's like, he doesn't know shit about Asian American anything. Like the fact of the matter is there are more generations and traditions of people working together and understanding the overlap. And sometimes again, the disoverlap, like there are things that are not exacting and you don't have to be. And that's the thing I also want to say, is that I think there's a tendency for some to rightfully say we have common currency, but they also try so hard to say everything's exacting. So, and then when you have somebody come up to you say, hey, well, like for instance, with my Barnes & Noble story, I didn't get shot. You know, I had a weirdo, person, Tea Party looking person, like, hold my hands up, but I didn't get shot, thank God. But the point being, does it have to be so exacting? Like, because then someone who's Black could say rightfully, or maybe not rightfully, because they have their own agenda in terms of like, focusing on a different kind of politics that's more conservative. They can say, well, Asian folks don't get racially profiled. And then the Asian guy's like, well, we do get profiled. But the whole point should have been, we have overlapping circles of problems. They don't have to be exacting, but they have similar class and colonialist enemies that we have to get rid of. So I even think the framing, how people frame these issues, should be nuance based too, in a way. They don't have to be like, like I'm not shot. Like I didn't, a cop did stop me once, but that's also to how, like, I didn't get attacked because I'm Hindu. I got attacked because of Islamophobia, which is another, you know what I mean? Like there's all these connective tissues that I have to reckon with. It wasn't because I was Hindu that a cop shine a light through my car. It wasn't because I was, oh, by the way, I was also been profiled as Latino. So it's like, these are these overlaps you have to still contend with, while also attacking the real enemies, which is the capitalist class, the colonialist class, and the compradors. Like Rick Chow is a comprador. Rick Chow and his stupid family took away a child's life because his stupid ass couldn't handle the pressure that was building up psychosis in his mind. Because he just sounds like an angry guy. He should just worry on himself than taking out his anger on customers who may take oven cleaner. So yeah, it's a lot to say about that, but yeah.
Look, one of my funniest upsetting moments was coming back from Egypt and being stopped at customs by a Mexican-American customs agent who was harassing me, thinking I was an Egyptian trying to come back into the country. And I was just sitting there like I was getting pissed, but then I was starting to try to look at the situation. I was just like,
I'm sorry.
this is you gotta be kidding me, son. Like, Mr. Gonzalez, you know what I'm saying? Like, like you gotta be with my Panamanian wife, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got. Oh my God. Oh man.
I'm sorry, I'm sweating from that.
I mean, it was crazy.
Oh
In the moment, it was upsetting, but
right.
or while in Egypt getting harassed by Egyptian taxi drivers because they think I'm with my Nubian concubine on the side who I'm not supposed to be seen in public with.
Oh wow.
Because I'm with my little dark-skinned Nubian, and you're not supposed to, and Arabs, I'm not supposed to be out there with my Arab self with my dark-skinned Nubian in public, no less. Hugged up in a cab? Oh, shit. Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
Man. I sometimes racial ambiguity can be fun, man.
It can, oh my God. I can't even, I don't even, that's a lot of layers.
Or I say funny, because it wasn't fun.
No,
it
yeah,
really
yeah.
wasn't fun.
I mean, you can look at, when I was profiled for Latino, it was the stupidest thing. It was like, it was at Rutgers, and I could feel, you know how you can feel like someone following you? I could feel, like I left the dorm, not to be specific, and I could just feel a car, like, drift, and it was still like far, like I was far away from the road, but I could just feel something. And I thought to myself, and I went through a parking garage to get out to another place, and I'm heading to class. And this tells you how goofy I am, because I enjoy my class. And so I'm like excited. I'm like, oh, this is great. I love learning. I was a big nerd in Rutgers because I no longer have to deal with math. And then and I thought to myself, there's a computer center at the time, and around this is a civilian place. So this tells you how intense this cop took it. So I was right. Someone was following me. This cop car swings around the corner, as far as I remember, to stop me from running. So, and I'm far away, but I thought to myself with my backpack, how funny. I even said how ridiculous this would be if this was for me. Because I was like thinking, this is a ridiculous energy. His lights are on, and he comes out, he says, hands up. I instantly put my hands up. And then I'm like, what is going on? And then he's like, where were you? Because I was dressed all in black. I was in a goth phase for some reason. And then they were like, he said, yeah, because there's some kids who did graffiti. And I had my hands up the whole time. And I was just, and the thing is like how ridiculous I was. And my parents were angry at me for how I reacted. And I was like moving my hand, like telling him like, you mean back there? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I didn't even reach there. And he's like, oh, and then he mentioned, I was like, what does the guy look like? I'm like yelling at him, and he's like, oh, Latino. And then he stops because he knows you're not supposed to say it. So again, the absurdity, but I stuck with that moment because I was like, I even told him I was so angry, which speaks again to my privilege, though. I was so angry. I said, I'm missing my class. I really like my class. And I'm like, this is so absurd. I'm in a Rutgers environment. Like, why are you thinking it's broad daylight? I don't give a shit about football. Like, that's the other thing I was thinking. Like, I don't give a shit about any of this. So,
speaking of that, folks, we really got, hey, I would be honored to wear an Egyptian soccer team jersey.
Yeah.
Doc Wu. And this is perfectly timed because I was just looking at stories about how I forgot his name, but the well-respected World Cup referee from Somalia just got harassed trying to get into the country.
Yep.
Did you see the Senegalese players getting harassed as well? Like getting searched and all kinds of. And then you see the pictures of people coming into Mexico being greeted by dancers and music welcoming. Speaking of, if there's anything worthy of a boycott, it is the World Cup, particularly the games here in the United States. And if anybody goes to a game, honestly, like if anybody supports any of this in the United States, you are basically the equivalent of this Rick Chow's defense lawyer. Like I as much as I and we have been critical or willing to acknowledge the limitations of boycotts,
right?
There's still just some shit you do on GP. Like, again, I have not stopped this liquor store from existing, but I haven't spent one penny in there. You know, like I'm not gonna. I know the World Cup. They're gonna make billions, but not from me,
Right.
and not even from my eyeballs. I can't even watch. I'm not even gonna watch.
I'm rooting against the American team because I know.
Oh, definitely.
Kusilic or whatever his name.
Definitely.
He did like a stupid Trump dance.
He did a Trump dance,
and then after that, he was scoreless though for a long time.
He did just score in one of these run-up games, I think. But
it was a long time.
I'm looking forward to the U.S. getting thumped up.
Yeah,
I'm half suspicious that a lot of what Trump is doing in the chaos they're causing is to try to give the U.S. some sort of an advantage, to give the players some sort of psychological advantage. I wouldn't put it past any of them. I don't trust any of them.
I don't trust any of them. FIFA especially FIFA.
And salute to the Knicks losing last night. And I hope they did it on purpose because Trump showed up at the game. I hope. No disrespect.
I know, but
I know Hiram's out there probably in tears this morning.
I'm a Knicks fan. I was watching it and I felt so weird because it was the first time where I was like, the vibe is just different. And I saw him up there and I was like, it's crazy to think also how we live in a country whereby it's not crazy to us because we know this, but we are living in a big prison in many ways that has different layers to it. And we're living in a country that has Epstein Island all over it and also has genocide all over it and has Somali folks who didn't do anything being attacked by white guys who are claiming some sort of first generation rights when they're all settlers. So I agree. I think at the end of the day, even with this conversation about Asians and Black folks, I think what's still, upsetting too, other than of course the biggest thing, which is this this child being murdered, is also I fear the conversations that are going to happen versus the conversations that need to happen, rightfully or wrongfully. Because again, to your earlier point, Godfrey's right on many things, and even that young woman who's talking about boycotting Asian salons is right in the sense of their anger, but it is going to be a blip unless there is like real coordination and things of that nature. And then to the essay by Matsuda.
Oh yeah, we got at least let me do this because in part I'm rushing because I need to.
You gotta go.
I need a bio break. I need a bio.
Oh, okay.
And then I do need to check on one thing. So why don't we do this? I'm going to run to the restroom. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment and introducing this essay.
Yeah, sure.
I can listen and then I'll come back. We can't leave without talking about that essay. And there's a couple things even from yours I want to get to before we leave. So let me not rush us off. Let me just deal with this and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
This is it's from this book by Mari Matsuda. She's still around, and I think she's one of the co-founders of critical race theory, along with I forgot the other people actually. The person who wrote Faces Down at the Well, if someone could help me with that. But Mari Matsuda is really awesome. I actually have the students in my class on Asian American stuff and race and ethnicity, 2 different classes, read this essay that's called We Will Not Be Used. It's from 1990, by the way. She gave this speech to the Asian Law Caucus, and she herself is very radical. And the title of the essay is We Will Not Be Used, Are Asian Americans the Racial Bourgeoisie? Yeah, Derek Bell, thank you so much. So I don't know if people have read this essay. It's really short, or this speech, but essentially she is kind of speaking to the issues that have happened since 1990, which is the issue of a certain kind of Asian American or Asian person living in the US who turns into a rickshaw, which she considers as the racial bourgeoisie. So she takes Marx's term of the bourgeoisie and says there is a hierarchy by which, very similar to Claire Jean Kim in some sense, that Asian Americans of a certain type are taking up that space of being the middlemen, as I had mentioned earlier, which comes from this essay. But she also calls out the stereotype for also reducing the real history of Asian American radicalism and also Asian American issues. So she does both, which I think are kind of interesting. I just really like this essay. Let me see. Maybe there's some parts of it I can read. Let's see. Yeah. So, there's a part of it I found it.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead. I just wanted to quickly shout out not only Derek Bell, but well, the now famous Kimberly Crenshaw,
Yeah.
Delgado, Richard Delgado, and of
Yeah.
course our homeboy Dylan Rodriguez. A lot of folks are not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if folks are aware how long Dylan has been dropping bars and bombs intellectually.
Right.
He's got new work coming out, I know, but Dylan was involved early on with that critical race theory as well. So
oh wow.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just shouting out some of the critical race theorists. And Dylan in fact in my critical race theory reader, which I happen to have right there, he's in there. He's in there.
Wow. I should have looked maybe
Yeah. Like folks like Richard Delgado, Mari Matsuda's in there. So you were right to remember that. Patricia Williams, Lonnie Grenier.
Right. I forgot about
Kimberly Crenshaw. And wait a minute. I know is he not in this one? Wow, is my memory that messed up? Did I put Dylan in here and he's somewhere else? I could have sworn Dylan was in here. I might be wrong again. This is why this is important. This is important to not. Oh my goodness, I think I was wrong. He may have been cited. He did something. Back then. He did something. My bad. That's messed up. What am I thinking of then? Somebody in the chat must know.
Could I just mention that I think someone asked what the book title
is?
Yeah,
Poncho's right.
This is a collection of her essays. It's Where Is Your Body? And Other Essays on Race and Gender and the Law. That's the book that this essay is from, if people are interested.
Anyway, let me I'll get back to I'll find out what I was thinking of with Dylan some other time. But anyway, salute to Dylan anyway. He don't have to be in there to get a shout out, you know. Yeah. No, my memory is trash, Poncho. Don't ever there's always one rung below you. If
we cited him for our paper, so I think we cited Dylan Rodriguez, white Reconstruction stuff in our paper.
It's a great book.
It's a great book.
Anyway, just quickly, what I thought was interesting from Matsuda's the speech you gave. One, first of all, just the title, "We Will Not Be Used."
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was dope. That she's saying, you know, like I get it. And she says Marx wrote of the economic bourgeoisie, of the small merchants, the middle class, and the baby capitalists who were deeply confused. In fact, let me just share this while I'm reading. Marx wrote of the economic bourgeoisie, of the small merchants, in the middle class, and the baby capitalists who were deeply confused about their self-interest. The bourgeoisie, he said, often emulate the manners and ideology of the big-time capitalists. They are the wannabes of capitalism, struggling for riches, often failing, confused about the reasons why the economic wannabes go to their graves, thinking that the big hit is right around the corner. This is just obviously so relevant to everything we're doing. And then she starts, as you were saying, is there a racial equivalent to the economic bourgeoisie? And then posits that Asian Americans have been held up for that role. She says that hers is a plea to Asian Americans to think about the ways in which our communities are particularly susceptible to playing the worst version of the racial bourgeoisie role. I thought this was interesting.
Yeah.
There are 100 ways to use the racial bourgeoisie. First, it is the creation of success myths and the blame the victim ideology. When Asian Americans manage to do well, their success is used against others. Internally, it is used to erase the continuing poverty and social dislocation within Asian American communities. This is exactly one of the points that I know and we wanted to raise up.
Right.
That I think is really important, that these Asian store owners whose businesses we want to take over are not living a lifestyle from the wealth created from that store that is fantasized, and the rest of their community is not healed as a result of it either. And then I like this part here where she says the cruelty of telling this to that is externally our success are used to deny racism and to put down other groups. African Americans and Latinos and poor whites are told, look at the Asians. Look at those Asians. Anyone can make it in this country if they really try. The cruelty of telling this to crack babies, to workers displaced. I didn't know if I liked that I didn't know if I needed that one. I don't know if I needed that one, but to workers displaced by runaway shops and to families waiting in line at homeless shelters is not something I want associated with my genealogy. I think I get her point.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I think I could have done with a yeah, go ahead. That was more or less what I wanted to bring out.
Well, the thing is that's interesting that I liked in this very short speech, because I just figured let's like have something short for this time. But the thing that I really enjoy about the speech that I have students focus on is she also talks about, in that sense, the Portuguese person. Like she focuses a lot of her analysis on the Hawaiian plantations. And if people don't know, Hawaii, of course, was Hawaii, independent kingdom that was taken over by the U.S. capitalists. That some Hawaiian royalty unfortunately allowed to seep in over generations, and then they became too powerful before it's too late. But Asians were brought in repeatedly. They were tracked down in their original countries, which were being colonized. So they were being disrupted. So they, were looking for work, and so you have waves of Asians really compelled to go to Hawaii. And so what she references is this instance where a lot of Portuguese also came. And she said there's one of the examples she says about the middlemen of that time period, like the 30s, the 40s, is that it was the Portuguese guy on a horse as an overseer. What I liked about that example was, I think we've talked about this a lot, and I think I would be interested to do a little bit more on this with you, like maybe something about culture again, because I think something that is. So again, one thing is, if Asians do succeed, it is not based on genes or God, it's based on law. That's one thing. And then when people do believe that they're more valuable than another group, yes, some of it is deeply propaganda, but it also is insinuated or connected to some sense of material high point. So the Portugal guy is probably still being relationally exploited by the real owner, but they got a horse. And I think that's what I like that she referenced. Like they still got a little bit of a one up. And that's the same thing with white workers following the GI Bill. Like they still have a relationship with their bosses where they still depend on it, but they got the GI Bill. And that's what I think the horse represents to me. That little tangible material. Because to me, it's the mind is affected by the material. At a certain point, the mind also then takes over and reinforces ideas that are not tangible to where you live. Like people can sometimes, like you said in her essay, like you're just waiting for your big break. There's nothing really to do with your lived experience in that sense. But I do think when she's hyping the fact that the Portuguese guy was the overseer and was given this horse, the horse to me meant a lot. It's the slight material advantage that then reinforces. It's like a Deepa Iyer. She's a South Asian American writer and lawyer. And she wrote this book that I identify with. It's about South Asians and Arabs in the post 9/11 world. But she wrote this really interesting thing about South Asians and Arabs who do what she said. She didn't make this term up, but she used it. It's called a racial bribe, right? So you get just enough. Like you get the store, you're still in the, maybe quote unquote in an environment by which you don't like, but you get the store, and that reinforces the material mind part. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, it's not like the Asian because I think there's still a conversation with Black and brown and Asians where some of us do believe that we're somehow led to believe by our false consciousness of certain attitudes, or even for ourselves, like with that young Black woman saying Black people have no spine or something. But no, there's always a material reality behind the curtain that allows for a certain kind of association to build, right? So that's the same thing with this essay that I loved,
So let me ask you one more question, and then I do have to actually go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it a cliche if we wrote what we're eventually working toward, doing what I know journalistically is done often, where we if we said we used this case and we said, and we did sort of a real deep dive into the lives of Cyrus and Chow and worked backwards using the frame of our project to explain what actually Does that like is that a cliche at this point of doing it that way, or
I don't know. I think it's also. I don't think it's a cliche if we also include what the defense says, because there's so many mythologies still packed into how
absolutely
Cyrus. Because when he's mentioning the store owners, he keeps saying like how they're on their they're on the edge because they're losing so much. So and then they're hardworking. So it's again the Asian it's the stereotype of the Asian store owner, but these things are collapsible. Like it's the Asian store owner. So it is racialized, but it's class too. Of course, it's intersecting. So that's the thing that I would be very fascinated. I think there's just a lot here with this case, and also it just illuminates that I'd be happy to expand on with how it distorts reality, distorts tradition that Mari Matsuda touches on, and also distorts power relations. Because the other thing that I'm also interested by is how these cases and the mythologies pull groups of people apart in ways that ultimately don't help anybody, the actual masses of each group. Because again, like I said, I have this circle. I'm writing notes. Like I always make these circles of overlaps, right? So like, for example, there's they don't have to be exacting. Like for Black folks, it could be a lot of the political imprisonment that I call it, with a lot of Black folks being like taken to prison. But then there's ICE, which also affects Africans. But then there's also how it affects Latinos. And then in the totality of it all, there is still these very like familiar class enemies and colonial enemies we have to deal with. Because my only worry is some people saying there isn't a common connection between Black folks and other groups of color. And I say this as someone who's understanding that frustration, but I'm just worried about certain political actors who are not coming with it from a nuanced perspective as you are coming or we are coming from. Like it's justifiable. I understand people are very suspicious about Asians, but then it overtakes into like a form of Black politics that can be very, again, the idea of the dollar being powerful. And then, so because for me, I'm also saying like, if Black folks want to do this thing, it has to be coordinated, and you can find allies among Asians now. At least there are groups out there that could combine efforts to make the boycotts more successful for this to actually work.
But I don't even mind dipping in. Look, I'm on some level don't admit that I don't mind some level of nationalism that is directed in a different way. So I would have no problem with a Black community saying as a starting point, it's just we just need everything to be Black.
Yeah.
And then from there, because then other contradictions are obviously going to emerge, and other realities are going to have to be confronted. But to your point, we then wouldn't want whatever limitations are imposed on that Black nationalist formation to be reducible to, well, that's because the Johnsons over there they're just perennially a mess, and the Ball family, they're the ones it's like it would be some other form of some internecine self-directed blame, or class, or maybe, or complexion, or whatever.
Yes. And I just didn't want to, but also I'm thinking about Asian folks too, who are then going to conversely say we don't have anything in common with quote unquote Black people. And what I'm saying is, for me, like I told I know what they mean by Asian. Some of the Black content creators are meaning East Asian. I get that, but Indian Americans are leading the way now with Asians, and Indian Americans are also caught up in this network. A lot of Indians own the liquor stores. A good number of them own a lot of these stores too, and they also get caught up with their racism against Black folks. So
you have all the hotels, Sudip.
I know. I have a ledger. When I call up, I have all the Patels call me up and say, "How you doing this week? How many white people?"
Whatever Hilton left over, you all have.
I have a book about that. There's a whole book on motels and how they also pursue the American dream through a distorted lens. But the thing that I get frustrated by is with Asian folks also doing that kind of, that kind of thing about like, oh, we got to protect the businesses against the Black folks. But it's like, I'm not protecting these businesses. I have nothing to gain from this. Like, you killed somebody. I don't give a shit. Like, you just go down with it. And also, like I said, the reason why I didn't mean to say my story about what I went through is same as yours, but it's like, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot I find obviously sympathetic with Cyrus immediately based on, but that's the thing that's missing all the time. There's these collapsible mythologies that seem to reawaken in moments that surprised me too, by the way. I really did think like some of this would be more nuanced than I expected from the Asian side too. That Asian man going out of his way to say like, well, you got to leave this out and Black people can't do it. I'm like,
that
I'm
sounds like the
increasingly
90s.
suspicious of this though, and
Yeah,
it's virality and all of that. Like I'm a
Because it's
little bit
commented on
suspicious.
a lot. Yeah.
It's just and it's always the same one.
Right.
For the most part. I know. Look, but to your point, your story, your story, of course, is going to be different from mine, and mine different from others.
Right.
But the point is that they're all emanating from the same context,
from the same contaminated root.
Exactly. So, like, again, my experience in the liquor store in the moment was not funny and was not pleasant, and
right.
It ruined the evening and all kinds of stuff. But there is something beyond me just saying fuck that guy,
right,
that explains what happened. And that's all I'm saying with all of this. Like I'm not mad at, I don't think I'm mad at any reaction to this.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is where this is where we
I'm sorry, and Rao, this is the real problem. Rao hit it on the head. Sorry.
I know Rao always has comments about
Rao brings it down, always brings it down to a succinct base. That's the real problem.
Right.
We have to say goodbye to them.
Well, there's the Asian conversation too. There was all this like stuff about white and Asian kids and celebrities, and now I think there is a quote unquote Asian who's now part of ICE, who's a leader of ICE. So he's half Asian and half
A-Marie will listen. No cookout. I will fight anybody who tries to stop A-Marie from coming to a cookout. I'm going to be the first in line to swing. God damn it. We can't go too far. Can't go too far. Yeah.
But I know you have to go, but just I think we could do another, because there's a lot here about also coalitional building. And I think there's psyops out there who are going to take advantage of this for sure.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to but I think the ground is ready for that too, because we don't have, like you're talking about the black nationalism. There was a black revolutionary nationalism that was never about just inward facing shit. It was more like it was revolutionary as a Black Panther Party.
No, it got targeted. Yeah,
exactly.
That's sort of the point I'm getting at. It's and again, we can sort of, for me, a kind of a concluding point is that nobody is in the position they're in because of some inherent, innate value or flaw. So that's at the end of the day what I would like to spend some time focused on, because again, ultimately, even selfishly, it helps me manage the visceral reactions that I have to these kinds of incidents, and I don't think are good for me, and definitely not good for anybody else. So listen, Sudip, I really appreciate this. Again, we will continue. The link to your work is in the show description. We didn't do it justice, but I do invite people to really look at your thoughts on Rick Chow, and we can always come back to it. I mean, it doesn't. There's always going to be, and and to everybody in the chat who made it to the live, thank you very much. Please, everybody, like, share, subscribe, support what we're doing here, support the work of Sudip, and the full playlist to the Donut King project we're working on is there if people want to go and see the rest of the conversations we've been having and read the stuff that we have cited in the show descriptions as well. And thanks everybody once again. Peace only if you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. And we'll catch you next time around here with more.
And what did you sacrifice?
Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago for which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight has set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything, 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 everything.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.